You want to see two Americas in one city? Here's what happens when being homeless is a crime, and the inverse of being white on a collegiate campus. People are mauled, activists and journalists are arrested by LAPD. However, if you're white and in Westwood, celebrating your team making the Final Four, you can get away with anything. Starting fires, violating the county's COVID protocols, doesn't matter. So these are the polar opposites just a few miles from each other in the same quote-unquote liberal city in America, Los Angeles, California. The media covered when this man, Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell, called in LAPD to physically move displaced American citizens and refugees into prison-like housing. When the town of Echo Park heard what O'Farrell was up to, they came out in droves, but were still mauled by LAPD, led by Chief Michael Moore, who once said this of the George Floyd protests over the summer.
We didn't have protests last night. We had criminal acts. We didn't have people mourning the death of this man, George Floyd. We had people capitalizing. His death is on their hands, as much as it is those officers.
Yeah, that guy. Behind him is LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, who has enabled Moore and the police through a budget of over $3 billion, according to Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. Councilman Joe Buscaino, who has been embroiled in the Harbor Gateway scandal where he took donations to approve an apartment complex, and even the connection to businessman Andrew Wang, per Spectrum News, in Los Angeles, well, he had nothing to say about the UCLA students, but had a ton to say about, you guessed it, Echo Park Lake. Taking advantage of the homeless, count him in. A former officer, he blamed activists. Policing in America, not holding those accountable, instead laying blame on the helpless. Yeah, that's about right. O'Farrell, a corrupt coward who cozies up to Scientologists and the elite in the city, claimed the homeless would receive housing.
Great when they put the fuel dumps on these helicopters. I would have dumped it on Glendale Boulevard a long time ago. I'll bring the match.
These are the tax dollars at work. Officers are again being criticized for their use of weapons last week, this time as they responded to protests over the removal of the homeless encampment around Echo Park Lake. Chief Moore claimed officers were blinded by strobe lights, so they had to use force. Au contraire, amigo. On video, officers were captured using weapons in ways that appeared to violate the department's policies, which bar officers from shooting people who don't represent a physical threat and from shooting into crowds, shooting people at close range, and shooting people merely for ignoring verbal commands. The fact remains, if you are white on a college campus, you can do as you please. But if you silently protest on the sidelines or if you march for human rights, well, apparently that's just too much of an ask in this country.